Hello there, and welcome to another of Andre's artist profiles. I remember in 2009, it was a Thursday. My father was at work, and he's a social worker, and he had said that one of the mentally challenged people that he worked with, I believe he has autism, told him that Michael Jackson had passed away that day, and it was June 25th, 2009. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. He was only 50 years old. I got online. I went to Wikipedia. I couldn't get through. As I learned later, what happened was when Michael Jackson's death was announced, the internet was jammed. Twitter was almost disabled. Wikipedia couldn't be accessed because they were making constant revisions. It's interesting. For the last 15 years of Mike's life, as it were, you know, my friend Henrique and a lot of others call him Mike, the distance from the adulation that he received. And we all know about that, the record sales and all that. But it was unbelievable. The silence we'd had about him for the last 15 years all of a sudden broke. And in his moment of death, he was again the king of pop. And I think that is the biggest tragedy. That we didn't appreciate him toward the end of his life the way we should have, on a musical level. But actually, a couple weeks later, now, I've always had a really strong affinity and have always defended Michael Jackson's solo work on Motown. But I had it on the old scattered anthologies and the few albums I could pick up and vinyl. But the set came out, I think, shortly before Michael's death, actually, which I'm going to start out with today. And it's called Hello World, the Motown Solo Collection by Hippo. And it includes every single solo album Michael Jackson ever made. I'm just going to show you some of the wonderful pictures. I love that picture of Mike at that age. Such a knowing child. I mean, oh my goodness. And that's pretty genuine. I mean, I don't think he's just posing. That's just pretty genuine. He had such a great sense of feeling here. I love the Applejack hat. Anyway, we'll go through this. I wonder if he was really playing the guitar there. But anyway, his first album, Gotta Be There, is in here with an amazing version, of course, of Ain't No Sunshine. Ben, where he actually reworks the lyrics, The People Make the World Go Round. There's the back of that record. Different photo stills. Music and Me, his 1973 album. One of my favorites of his, We're Almost There. Forever Michael, 1975. Looking Back to Yesterday, the really rare record. Again, some great pictures. Now, this album was re-recorded in 1984 to sound contemporary. Some unreleased Michael Jackson stuff. But on this album, they include the original masters, which are some of the funkiest things Michael Jackson did on Motown. Recorded in the mid-70s. Anyway, I could go on and on with this. The CDs are right here, packaged in that format. And that's Hello World. All of Michael Jackson's output on Motown. Now, anyway, let's get to the stuff you probably are going to want to see or have seen a million times. Now, Off the Wall. Now, for some reason, this originally, of course, featured a picture of Michael Jackson's whole body on the cover with the tuxedo and curly hair. For some reason, they only included the feet on the recent reissues, and I don't know why. I love that original cover. Now, I don't need to go into how great this album is. Get on the floor. Don't stop till you get enough. I mean, this is one of the biggest selling albums of all time. Anyway, but nothing compared to No Comment Needed. Billie Jean, Thriller. All One Needs to Say. Holographic cover there. Music Magic, They Got to Be Successful. Very deserved. Now, Spike Lee directed a documentary last year called Bad 25. And this is a reissue of the Bad album featuring a 2-disc set, the original album, and actually outtakes from that album. There's even a song on here called Al Capone, of all things. Bad, another one of his big albums. Now, Dangerous. Ooh. This album was produced with Teddy Riley, and it's the very, very abstract version of New Jack Swing. He had a great hit on here called Remember the Time, but this album has some really abstract songs on it, too, such as She Drives Me Wild and Why You Want to Trip on Me. There's some rather, the cover is very abstract and very, somewhat gauche you could say, but this is a very abstract album from Michael Jackson. Unfortunately, after that, his reputation took a major nosedive because of allegations of child abuse. And that's when this album came out. This album, you see right here, is the original CD issue of History. Gold press CDs. Of course, its greatest hits and new material. Stranger in Moscow. Little Susie is one of the most tragic songs Michael Jackson has ever written. Anyway, this album is the original CD reissue with They Don't Care About Us uncut, with the famous, I don't know if I can even say it on YouTube, but I'll try, the famous "Jew Me, Sue Me" lyric, which they've since edited out. But I kept my original because I understand the context Michael meant it in, as commenting about racism and not being a racist or an anti-Semite himself. But you know, I'm a defender on Michael on many levels. I don't know exactly what happened, but this is, I think, his, like John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band, his Confessional album, some of his most moody and very dark material. Now, speaking of dark, before we get to that, this is not the second part of History. This is, sorry about the dust there. That's unacceptable for me to have too much dust on a CD. Blood on the Dance Floor. There's a song on here called Morphine, where he actually talks about a possible addiction to Demerol. This was a very dark period in his life when he was married to Debbie Rowe and beginning to have his family. But anyhow, this album features some remixes from the History album and songs like Ghost. Some of his more funky material and his vocals during this time were really, really powerful. My friend Henrique and I are always commenting about how on later Michael Jackson records, he really got a growl, a low growl in his sound. History and Dangerous and this album are full of that. This was his big comeback album. I remember, you know, rather tactlessly on his 30th anniversary show, he actually, when the song You Rock My World from this came out, he had a bunch of young kids listening to CD players saying, "Hey, you want to hear the new Michael?" That was pretty corny, and I really didn't care for You Rock My World that much. Butterflies is a beautiful song that has since been redone wonderfully by Marcia Ambrosius, one of the members of Floetry from England. This album, by this time, you know, the quality of Michael Jackson's music was slipping to a degree, because frankly, even though Rodney Jerkins produced this, he was in his most catatonic, drugged out state and was in no shape to be recording, frankly. And, you know, Heartbreaker and Unbreakable are really, it's kind of like Dangerous, kind of experimental, but Mike's heart just isn't in it on this one. Okay, now this album's a little bit controversial. Released a year after his death. Unfortunately, Michael never lived to complete a lot of this material, so there are some impersonators taking over for him, and not particularly good ones either. But the Michael Jackson material that is here, like Keep Your Head Up and such, is pretty good. Anyway, I'm going to do something unusual because part of Michael's appeal was visual. I'm going to include some DVDs I have of him. Now, this is Michael Jackson's vision. This includes all his videos from 1979 through 2004, actually. Some of the formatting is a little awkward, of course, but it has a great liner book, which I'm going to take out and show you. It's got some wonderful pictures in it. I could just go on and on forever about this and how this set is put together. But the great thing about this is that it also includes videos by the Jacksons, like the epic Triumph, Can You Feel It, from 1981, which I don't think they aired on MTV at the time. Now, this is Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, a mixture of claymation and theatrical filmmaking from 1988. I remember this well. It was hard to find on DVD, but during the time when Michael had passed away, a lot of his stuff was coming out, so I managed to get a hold of what I believe was a legitimate copy at the time. It's not a VHS transfer. It's a really good digital remaster in Region 1. Now, this is Michael Jackson's last movie, This Is It. He was on his last leg. He was a walking corpse during this movie, but even some of the younger dancers in their 20s admitted that Michael was dancing and performing circles around them. And unfortunately, his engagement at the O2 Arena for his final comeback tour didn't go through. But anyway, that is my actual collection of Michael Jackson's music and videos. And, you know, I can't believe it's 4 years since Mike passed away. People often look at him as a legend. I see him as a bit of an icon, you know. And the funny thing is, he musically, you know, note for note, song for song, wasn't actually that incredibly original compared to a lot of other artists. But his star power, his personality, and his whole manner of attire and his persona is what really made him unique. There's only one James Brown, you know. There is only one Otis Redding. There is only one Jackie Wilson. And there's only one Michael Jackson. That's all I have to say. R.I.P. Michael Jackson. Gone too soon, but always there.